Hello and welcome to another episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast. My name is Polanco and I'm the President and CEO of the Council on Legal Education Opportunity. We're so excited today to have attorney and co-founder of Legal Innovators, Bryan Parker. Bryan Parker, welcome to the CLEO Edge Podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Admired the organization for a long time.
You know, we're so excited to have you here at the podcast. And, you know, we're even more excited that we're getting an opportunity to honor you on April 11th at the CLEO Edge reception at the Greenberg-Traurig, Washington, D.C. offices, where the CLEO Board of Directors and our advisory council and our team have awarded you with the incredible award of the CLEO Edge Greater Equality Award for 2024. So we're very excited to actually have you with us and participating in our annual event.
I was surprised, and definitely humbled, we do this work because it's fulfilling and because we're passionate and dedicated to it. But to receive an honor like this from your organization, it's pretty cool. And I look forward to being there with you and your board and the other awardees.
Oh, we can't wait to have you. You know, you have a lot of people, Bryan, that truly admire all the work you've done throughout the years, not only to create, greater equality in the legal profession and the business profession, which we're going to get an opportunity to hear about. But we really want to hear from you about, your advice to law students across the country, new attorneys, those that are thinking about the law, because, you've been at the forefront for so long. So, we're very excited about our conversation today. So really excited about April 11th. So really can't wait to see you there. Bryan, you've done so much in the law. You've been in politics, you've been in business, you've been in the law. And now we're on a committee together at the City Bar here in New York, where we're getting to see the incredible work you're doing at Legal Innovators. And what I want to know, and I know what a lot of young law students want to know, is what motivated you to get into the law, Bryan?
Well, good question. A long one. I'll try to truncate it. Probably not dissimilar to yourself and a lot of other lawyers. When I thought about what the law was and what lawyers do, I thought about it being a path of change, of being able to sort of give a voice to the voiceless. And I guess my journey probably starts growing up, having a mother that was in the civil rights movement. That was one of the first to integrate her high school in East Rome, Georgia, which is a tiny place in a very red state, as we know. And growing up and hearing the struggle of her and so many of the contemporaries to expand access to fight for equal rights and that sort of thing. And then I was reminded of, who were the folks that got them out of jail when they got into trouble in those days? And they were lawyers, right? Lawyers knew the law. Lawyers could stand up and fight for people. Lawyers could make a change. So I saw that for myself, even at a young age. And so, as I studied and I worked, I said, okay, this is a goal I'm going to go towards.
It's interesting. I had a feeling that was what drove you. I had a feeling that it was to make a difference and to make a change and to really fight for people who need support. I hear that as a constant message of like-minded folk that entered the law to make a real change in the lives of people. And thank your mother for the incredible work she did.
Well, she'll be there on the 11th. You can.
Bryan, I can't wait to be there.
She will be excited to meet you and socialize.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. Bryan, so you're in college. I know you go to UC Berkeley, right? And I need to hear how that was like. I went to state school in New York at the University at Albany, and we had a program that I participated in called the Equal Opportunity Program. It's for students that come from disadvantaged backgrounds, financially disadvantaged backgrounds. We get an opportunity to go to college and get some additional support. And I had the benefit to have a close network of friends that I still keep in contact today. Many of us are in the legal profession, but I'm in New York on the East Coast. How was it? How was it out there in Berkeley on the West Coast for you?
Um, in terms of the educational experience, or in terms of my friend groups, or
Yeah, in terms of what was it like? Did you have the support system at Berkeley? How did you find the administration? And tell us a little bit about how it was for you as you navigated your way into law school, eventually coming back to the East Coast.
yeah, no, thanks for clarifying. And first of all, my best friend who I met in law school at NYU also went to SUNY Albany undergrad, so I know that you guys produce some good stock. So he and you are both in good company. In terms of Berkeley, again, I guess I was sort of focused on what the next steps would be at a pretty young age, and I kind of zeroed in on Berkeley, Stanford, or Princeton. My mom at the time said, "Hey, look, let's stay on the West Coast, be around sort of family for undergrad and grad school. Then we can revisit this." And Berkeley with its tradition, right? Again, just a historic place in terms of free speech and the level of academic reputation and that sort of thing. So I was really excited and ended up with with a lot of support and some very good networks. So for starters, my family was only about an hour and a half away. So when I needed to go home, there was that. And I had an uncle who was much closer to my age, but who was a professional, graduated about 5 years before I got to Berkeley, and was working in the city, right? So I had that support. And I joined, I guess two things really. I joined a fraternity. So I am a member of one of the historically African-American fraternities, the first one that was founded, Alpha Phi Alpha. And that was something that was sort of tradition in the family as well. And so when you for me, I had the opportunity to attend some really good schools, including going to a prep school that was a seminary for high school. But most of my academic and my other backgrounds had been, well, I was one of the only black person, and so it was it was comforting and uplifting to be around a network of other positive minded people and have that support. And then you talked about politics, so I did get involved in politics at a pretty I guess young age, right? So first, the president of the dorm, and then I was on the ASUC Senate, so the student government for Cal, which is one of the biggest student run organizations in the country, and so it just started to shape me and shape my consciousness. And the last thing I'll say, because I don't want to drone on too long, and it's funny, you smile, right, when you become a historic footnote, meaning for the audience. You talked about it being students and younger attorneys, so they'll have to look this up. But when the apartheid movement was going on in South Africa at the time, I was involved with a group of student leaders that were impressing upon the university the importance of the human rights of the South African people that were being oppressed, and leading some of the movements, at least so far as we could do from here. So Berkeley was that kind of place, right, where you were going to have an experience if you put yourself out there and were open to it, and I certainly did.
That's great to hear. It's one thing to know of Bryan Parker. It's another one to know Bryan Parker, and that's what we're trying to get from you today. So excited to hear about your undergrad experience. Now, as you transitioned from undergrad, coming back to the East Coast to NYU Law School,
Well,
how was mentorship important for you? Did you participate in any programs prior to law school? How was that transition? And once you get to NYU, how did you seek mentorship? How did you go through law school? Tell us your plan of attack.
Yeah, it's funny with mentorship in my life. I've had a lot of that, and I guess I've just been very fortuitous that I've run into some pretty good people that have decided to to invest in me, and it's been a pretty cool thing. So at NYU, I don't know that I was necessarily seeking it out and saying, oh hey, be my mentor, but our dean, John Sexton, who became president of the whole university, used to have this small little, and it was a small little gym, Sunday morning basketball with the dean. So I started going, and I would play with the dean and got to know him. And certainly, he was one of the first that gave me guidance there. And then I had a property professor, and I used to go to his office hours, and I would encourage people that are still in law school. I know that sounds fairly corny, but that's when you can kind of get into the nuances of the law. Um, where are you maybe struggling with concepts, and the professors can take more time on a one-on-one basis to kind of go back and forth. So I would recommend that. In any case, the professor used to smoke a pipe, and I think it was the first person, my grandfather, that I encountered that smoked a pipe, and I was like, wow, this is regal. You have this. This image in your mind of higher learning and the East Coast and the leaves and the smell of a cigar pipe, and so he was able to, and we just formed a relationship, and able to give me advice about a lot of things, and including the job market and that sort of thing. And then there was, I'll stop because there was real more mentoring that leads up to current day that started when I was a first year associate at Sherman. But NYU certainly started that.
You know, Bryan, I'm a Fordham Law alumni, so when we think about NYU, it gives us indigestion. It's almost like what do you call it? It was like a rivalry of sorts that we at Fordham put in our minds, that school down there by the village.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, you guys should have had the indigestion from Columbia, because I always tell people there's the uptown people and the downtown people, and I like to think of us as men and women of the people, and NYU. It, again, not to fly the flag too much, but it's a private university in public service, right? And that meant a lot to me when I was choosing schools. But certainly, there are great schools, including the three that we've named at Fordham, Columbia and NYU, but St. John's and Brooklyn and Cardozo and New York, and it's just it's a wonderful learning environment.
It is, and I meet so many of our CLEO students that attend these law schools that have gone through our programs. You mentioned in our conversation about mentorship. One of the things that we do at CLEO, with our academic affairs team, is that we set up opportunities for students to come and hear from attorneys about how their daily life is at work. They get to hear from folks in corporate. They get to hear folks in government service, like the Securities and Exchange Commission, folks in JAGS, Judge Advocate Court, throughout all of the military branches. And our goal is for students to get to know people so that they can actually see what it's like. A lot of our students come from places like where I come from. I'm from a tough part in the Bronx, and I tell our guests the only attorneys I got to see were Matlock on Tuesday nights with my dad.
That's right.
And
What?
my mom actually was a housekeeper for one. I never got to meet him, but it's important for folks to see and hear from other attorneys, to see what their lives are like, and to see themselves in others. So that mentorship is very important. To have that diversity in fields can be a big motivator. I mentioned that because you are an attorney, but you have a background in business and in the law. And now you are, I don't want to get to legal innovators because you're really doing something incredible where you're merging these backgrounds. And I want our students to hear about it. But, tell us a little bit, if you could, about how you went about your career, because it's incredibly diverse.
Yeah, no, thanks for that opportunity. And I think, again, you go back to, mentorship and folks at Berkeley, having a hand in shaping my career. And I remember I had a economic seminar, and there was only like 8 of us in there, right? And I was, sometimes, kid was like, okay, I'll do enough just to get the A or maybe the B plus or whatever it was. And I knew I was a pretty good speaker, so I kind of just took that for granted. And so had made a presentation, and the professor asked me to stay after class, and he says, Jimmy, do you know even Martin Luther King, the greatest orator? Now we think of former President Obama, who obviously was such a compelling speaker. But he says, do you know what happens about 10 minutes after they give the greatest speech of their life? Obviously, this isn't true with I Have a Dream and other things, but basically his point was, well, you forget 60, 70% of it because it was oral, right? You understand how you felt. You take a couple of things away. He said, but writing is forever. He says, if you dedicate yourself as much to the written word as the spoken word, I don't want to say the sky's going to be the limit, right? So he pushed me to push myself on writing and on reading other good writers and becoming, a better writer. When I was in New York at NYU, won our moot court contest. But what I was proud of, and I thought about this professor, is that I had the best oral argument and the best written brief. Right. And so for our young lawyers, I think the written word and analytic skills are important. So I had that part of my brain, right, in college. The other part, I was pretty good quantitatively too. So I was a tutor, both paid and for friends, for calculus and statistics. And, people, I guess for whatever reason, had trouble with math, and it kind of came easily to me, right? And then the third component, I noticed that either I was always drawn or pulled to or whatever, some sort of leadership, whether it was student government or my fraternity or other organizations that I was in. And so for me, what that said was, you're going to lead something at some point, right? But if you're going to lead a company, you got to know some things, right? And so law was about a way of thinking and analyzing and problem solving. But again, through mentorship, I found out through other CEOs and people that I respected, the best CEOs know their business and know the trail of money as well as their CFOs, right? And so I knew I had to build those experiences, which is the long way short. So yes, I started as a lawyer and did M&A, mergers and acquisitions at Sherman & Sterling. But then I did a decade in finance and investment banking, principally at Lehman Brothers and then Merrill. Again, historic reference. People can go and search and see that Lehman Brothers is no longer around. Because of the market implosion. And then over time, as I built up the skills, I got my first opportunity to get into operations first as a CFO, and I realized I was good at the numbers, but that wasn't my passion. The leading was, and it was hired in at one company, and then sort of battlefield promotions, first chief operating officer and the president of the company, and the board remarked, "Well, yes, you were doing well on the financial piece, but you're a much better overall leader and strategic thinker." And so that started my career on being in the business. But what I will say for law students and young lawyers, and this, law gives us a basis and a way to think and analyze and problem solve, and it allows us to be able to do so many things.
Yeah, that's right. It's such a versatile degree and the versatile training that it gives you so much opportunities. A lot of people, when they hear that someone's an attorney, they're automatically thinking courtroom, but only 20% of attorneys are actually in the courtroom. Many attorneys are in boardrooms. Many attorneys are doing operations, and they're in all parts of academia and corporate America and in nonprofit sectors. So it's interesting to see you have actually gone through the myriad of different fields, and I think students they find that to be a motivator, because a lot of us don't do one thing only and for a very long time, especially in this economy. The idea of, like, my dad is, working in one place for 20, 30 years. It's not
That's
something
right.
that we see anymore in this economy.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a book called and I'm going to butcher this, but it's like the 1,000 or the 100 job career. But basically speaking to what you just said, that we do many things, and how are we prepared for those things?
Yep, and it's great to see. Now, Bryan, you are a co-founder and CEO of Legal Innovators, and it is such an incredible organization. You're doing it's interdisciplinary in that you're focusing on so many different aspects. Hence, being an innovator. But you saw something. You said the legal business is missing something, and I'm going to bring my talents here. I'm going to build a team, and we're going to fix the legal profession, like in a very interesting way. Can you tell us what motivated you to start Legal Innovators, and what your goal and your team is? Because you have a great team of folks that work with you.
Yeah, no, we certainly do. And as I'm sure you'll say about your organization, right? No leader can lead or have an organization, or even, be recognized like you guys are recognizing me on the 11th, without a good team, right? And so it really starts there. I'll pick up the mentorship story here a little bit. And so for your audience, know that at Legal Innovators, our thesis is mentorship leads to sponsorship, sponsorship to opportunity. Once you have that sponsor opportunity. Why am I saying that? Well, the person that I met during my summer clerkship, which many of the law students will do to be able to get their job if they're going to go into big law. My mentor from that summer was a guy named Jonathan Greenblatt. And if you've seen on our website, it's Legal Innovators by Greenblatt and Parker. So John was my mentor when I was a summer associate, and I remember him taking us up to his summer house in Cape Cod and really just pouring into us. And then again, it is mentorship is a two-way street, right? So you're pouring into them and they're pouring into you. And so that has led to a more than 20-year relationship. And we have incorporated the elements of that thesis, mentorship, sponsorship opportunity, into what we're doing. And I really think it's, again, you talked about a team. John and I come at this, and John was a partner at Sherman for 30 years, there for 40. So he was able to observe, and did observe, so many things about the law. And again, we have a beautiful profession, but change and improvements and innovation are always possible. Me, from an operations perspective and from a design perspective, right? With the questions I like to ask in my career are, what are the big problems? How do we change things systemically? How can we take something that maybe is working, but make it work better? And there were certain elements, including how people come into the profession. Why don't they stay in the profession? How are they developed? How are they mentored? How are they trained? How are they coached? And so John and I put our skill sets together. We had some other good people come and join us and have formed the core of what we're doing at Legal Innovators. But we said, look, we've got an answer to a business problem. And I said, as this is my third time leading a venture-backed company, well, we can finance this company, which fortunately we have. That was the business side, right? But I believe in doing well, returning value for your shareholders, your employees, yourself, but doing good at the same time. So my grandmother passed from renal failure, and that's kidney disease. And if you look at kidney disease, the folks that have to get on dialysis at the end of their lives are about 80% Black, brown, and or poor, right? And so when I went to DaVita, which was one of my first big operating job, and I ended up getting a $400 million division that I grew into being $1 billion enterprise, and people focus on, the highlights in those numbers. But really what I was doing was serving that community that looked like me, and a grandmother who had poured so much into me in my life. Why am I saying this? Well, that's the other side of Legal Innovators, right? We are a for-profit business, and I think we're doing pretty well there. But the mission is to try to make the law more inclusive. How do you get more folks that look like us, that are first gen, that for whatever reason have historically not had some of these opportunities, and be able to not only open the opportunity, but make sure that once they're there, they're going to be able to thrive. So it was really having a mission-driven purpose and having something underlying that we thought could make a difference for our profession and for society is the reason that we started.
And it's wonderful to see it thrive and to be respected around the country. Bryan, it's Legal Innovators has become this organization where no matter where you go in this industry, people know it. People want to hear from you. People want you to moderate their panels like you did on just earlier this month. So it's working. And what I and so many in this field find so interesting is how you were able to really merge some of the strategies of management consulting, right? The idea of mergers and acquisitions and finance, and say, this is all part of the law, because in the end, the law can be a very successful business, and sometimes lawyers forget that. Lawyers forget that this is in fact a business, and that people will benefit if your business is doing well, right? Because sponsorship, mentorship, right? Your thesis is so interesting. Because if you're a successful business, guess what? You have the ability to support organizations like the Council on Legal Education Opportunity to create a whole new group of lawyers that is going to hit the ground running and make a difference in the lives of millions of people. And you're so right about that. So that's why I'm so interested in Legal Innovators, and I encourage it. Can you tell our viewers the website for them to be able to see? And you have some incredible percentages of how you could actually trace your your team's contributions to the legal profession right on your website. It's really great to see.
100%. And I'll say in, hopefully less than a minute, that we are an end-to-end technology-enabled talent management solution everywhere from helping our clients who are law firms and corporate legal departments identify talent. So we have partnerships with more than 45 different schools, law schools around the country. So 10 of the top 25, all 6 of the historically Black schools, 12 of the Latinx serving schools, and then a number of strong regional ones. We have a proprietary way of vetting, which we use this proprietary algorithm and a writing prompt. We train, we develop performance coaching, which is something that we offer out into the market. We try to rationalize the price point because of where the salaries have gone in our market. It has gotten so expensive for law firms, and then for clients, they've pushed back on that. We took an analogy from the European apprenticeship model, which says, look, we hire the people, and then our lawyers go and work at the firm of the corporate legal department for up to 2 years. So they're able to see each other in practice. And so if they are meeting the culture, or they fit the culture, and they meet the competencies, they can be hired at any point along this 2-year period. And that was thank you for being kind enough to mention that. Of the lawyers that we've placed and the clients that we've been blessed with, 90% have been given full-time employment. So we do know the model is working. And then last is on the inclusion piece, right? And we know that now the challenge is how do we achieve our inclusion and diversity goals in a way that's compliant with the law of the land? And with the Harvard and North Carolina case that got decided, we have a way of doing that and providing, diverse pipeline to our folks that's consistent with the Supreme Court decision and helping them with retention. So that's the model from beginning to end. And the website is www.legal-innovators.com. So we'd welcome you to kind of learn more. And if you are a student and you haven't secured employment, or you want to learn more about us, we'd welcome you. We have video testimonials from people that have been through the program, so you can hear it in their own words as well.
That's great. We are, Bryan, thank you for sharing that, and where students and folks that are interested in learning more about Legal Innovators can go. And I'm sure Curlew, our executive producer, will put the website on the screen for all of you to be able to go and see. This is the part of the show where we're going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. so that students can get to know Bryan Parker, the guy, right? Not the guy
Oh,
with the master's in divinity, the law degree, okay.
oh,
So my favorite part of the song, because I found all these songs, I got them for our podcast, and it
I
currently
love it.
plays it right about here. All right, welcome to the rapid fire round, Bryan Parker. Thank you for participating. So these are just a few questions. Now, what's your favorite, iPhone or Droid?
iPhone.
It's like 99% iPhone. Here I am with the Samsung Flip, what I think is the best phone ever. And if Samsung is watching, please consider donating to the CLEO Edge
CLEO.
on April 11th.
Yep.
We're supporting Bryan Parker and awarding him with the Greater Equality Award. Now, favorite social media platform. And I'll throw in LinkedIn there as well. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snap, or LinkedIn.
I guess I'll be a dinosaur and go with Facebook because that was probably one of my first ones. And that's one where, frankly, we do a lot with business on Twitter Twitter and LinkedIn. But I'm able to keep up with my friends from around the country and watch the journey of their kids and that sort of thing. So I guess I would say Facebook for those.
Dinosaur move, according to my students, Bryan.
That's why I said that. I acknowledge that I'm old, right? And they'll know accordingly.
Bryan, what's your favorite restaurant down in DC where you are?
Ooh, boy, and that's sadly, I'm just I'm really just learning here. But maybe I'll say the Ocean Steakhouse. That's I know Joe's Crab and Seafood. It's like a historic place here in DC. So I'll go with that. Yeah.
What's up? Favorite movie based on the law? And I know what you're gonna say. A Few Good Men, or is that just me?
God, you did get some. You did get some. I will go with Philadelphia.
Great movie.
I'll go.
And what's the last book you read, Bryan?
Well, I'm always reading a lot of different stuff. So I may go with one. You mentioned it. I am finishing. I've been doing this at night. Don't advise this. Focus on your jobs and get some sleep. But I've done this master's in divinity. So maybe I'll point to a book called Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin, who is my favorite author. And it was a banned book, absolutely American classic, but will tell the story of urban African Americans, the church, the struggles, some of which we're having right now with sex and sexual identity and that sort of thing. So lots there for people to chew on.
Wow, well, thank you so much for participating in our lightning round. This is my favorite part because we get to hear some stuff not dealing with the law. We are, we're approaching the end. This is where I like, Bryan, I want to hear from you about the importance of diversity, considering what we were just talking about before our break. How should students deal with some of the things they're hearing about regarding diversity programs and law schools cutting back diversity? Can give us some words of inspiration for students that may be concerned about diversity being under attack?
Look, I think we gotta stay in the fight. I think that the contributions of all Americans should be valued, but you can't tell the story of America without telling the story of diverse people. So I think we know that while the road is a little bit hard, we've got to commit ourselves to understanding how to keep those pipelines open and then reaching back. You talked about the pipeline work we're doing with the New York City Bar. How do we get more law school ready folks at that point, right? And I think partnering with some of the people that are supporting you and our general counsel and their companies who are hearing from consumers like you and I, who are putting pressure on their law firms to make sure that we have representation, across the board. And I will say this, on where we started with the story of my mother, if you look at the giants whose shoulders we stand on from the civil rights movement, they knew, and the MLK quote, that if you haven't found something you're willing to die for, you're not fit to live. They literally put their bodies on the line, and some of them did die for us to open up these doors. So when we might want to hang our head a little bit and say it's hard or say that it's tired, we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to future generations to continue. And if I can leave with a little bit of divine inspiration, I don't know if people can see the quote about me, but I personally live by is Philippians 4:13, and that says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," including making our profession look and honor all Americans, regardless of where they come from.
Wow, Bryan, I couldn't end the show with such an important note. We really want to thank you, Bryan, for spending some time with us today. We know you're very busy, and we can't wait to meet with you on April 11th, where we're going to award you with the Greater Equality Award at the Edge reception for the Council on Legal Education Opportunity. We want to thank you, thank Legal Innovators and the great team that you have there. We work with them closely. We know how hard they work, and how much they care about the legal profession and making things right. So thank you so much, Bryan, for your time and for being part of the CLEO Edge podcast.
Thank you for having me and being such a great and entertaining host.
Thank you. It means the world to me. Thank you so much for that, Bryan.
All right. So
have a great day. We hope you enjoyed that episode of the CLEO Edge podcast with attorney Bryan Parker, who's the co-founder and CEO of Legal Innovators. Why don't you come down and meet Bryan in person on April 11th at the CLEO Edge reception? April 11th is a very big day for us here at CLEO. It's where we get people from all over the country to come and celebrate those who have made a real difference in the legal profession. Now, this year, our reception is going to be at the Greenberg Traurig, Washington, D.C. offices. Now, it's at 2101 L Street Northwest, Suite 1000 in Washington, D.C. The event is from 6:30 to 8:30. It'll mean a great deal for us to see you there. Now, it's free, so come down and participate. Now, visit CLEOinc.org. The website is right on the screen. And click on that website, RSVP for the event. Bring your friends. Tell everyone you work with to come down and support CLEO that night. Get to meet the awardees. And while you're there, if you haven't made a donation yet, and you want to support our students, support our incredible programs that we run all over the country, consider making a contribution there. Every dollar counts. So hope to see you on April 11th. And again, thanks again for joining us at the CLEO Edge podcast. We hope to see you soon. Thank you.